If you're a fan of Superbook, you know the Salvation Poem. It's a 6-line song that's been translated into 50 languages, and it's become a universal tool for evangelism.
Every episode of CBN's animated series, Superbook, ends with the Salvation Poem, sung by a young vocalist in the viewer's native language. Brennan McPherson is the vice president of the Salvation Poem Foundation, which exists to teach the entire world the simple message of salvation. Brennan is also a novelist who wrote his second book, Flood, which offers a fictional take on one of the most controversial stories of the Bible.
Please welcome back to the 700 Club, Brennan McPherson. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here.
It was your parents who wrote the salvation song that's at the end of Superbook, and other ministries, I understand, are using it as well around the world. Yeah. Did you all have any concept that it would have the impact it's having?
Well, I think my dad did. When it first became an idea, he felt that he was supposed to teach the song to the world. Yeah, and it seems like that's happening.
Yeah, it's happening.
But I had no idea.
Yeah, I think of all the Superbook clubs we have going on around the world, and every child every week sings that salvation song at the end of it. Yeah. It's so incredible. You are a writer, and you've written, is Flood your second novel?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
How did you get into writing?
It was a bucket list idea.
Really?
I just wanted to write a book before I died, and I thought, now's better than ever, so.
Yeah, I mean, you're a remarkable writer. What was your experience with that before you dove into your first book?
Zilch.
Are you serious?
Serious, yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
Wow. What did you study in school?
I studied business.
Huh. Well,
yeah.
That helps on the other end of the writing, right?
It does.
You said that the story of Noah has always intrigued you. Why?
I think partially because it's so unique in that it's the story of the destruction and renewal of the world. Mm-hmm. It's never happened again. God promised that it never would in that way. And it never happened before then. It's a unique story. But also just because, who was Noah that God took notice of him?
Yeah. One of the things that struck me as I read the book was we read the Bible and we accept the stories as they are written in there, which really doesn't include the before. Yeah. Or a lot of the details of the time. I mean, it's a pretty broad description of things. How did you prepare to write something like this where a lot of the book is about what went on before and the reality after?
It takes a lot of prayerful thought and trying to fit your ideas into the text and, reading all the auxiliary text, where it's cited in the New Testament. The New Testament talks about the story a lot.
Yeah.
So making sure that it lines up with everything. Yeah.
You, on the back cover, you describe your book as dark biblical fiction with a fantasy twist.
Yes.
Wow, explain that, and how did you come to that?
Well, the story of the flood, God says that the intentions and thoughts of man's heart was only evil continually. So it's very dark. Mm-hmm. The time was very dark. And it's a fantasy twist because there's some very strange things talked about as happening in the book. Noah's great-grandpa Enoch was one of 2 people who never died.
Yeah.
That's very strange. That's very fantasy-esque. Yeah. And then you have the beginning of Genesis 6. What were the Nephilim? Were they people? Were they people possessed? Were they something else? There was a lot of violence in the earth at that time, and you write about that. I wondered, because you hear this from actors in Hollywood so often when they play a dark character, sometimes it impacts them. I mean, like they have a hard time coming out from under that back to reality. Did you? I didn't, mostly because I was really just primarily in the heads of the people who were trying to struggle to be good in the time period. It really is centrally a story about God's mercy. Mm-hmm. It is very redemptive.
So is that what you want people to take away from the flood after they've read it? What's the core theme of what you've put together here?
That is what I want them to take away, to see God's mercy in one of the most controversial and difficult stories in the Bible. I had friends in college who thought they couldn't believe in God because they viewed him as just a tyrant. Mm-hmm. But I think that the story really is primarily about his mercy. Yeah. And mercy can't exist without judgment. Yeah. The two are just the same thing.
Intrinsically linked.
They're intrinsically linked.
Your first book was Cain. I mean, you of all the things in the Bible to write about, you pull some of these characters out. How did you come to that?
To writing about Cain? Cain has always fascinated me. I waited for someone to write that book for years, and I never thought it'd be me. So it was a surprise for sure.
Yeah. The book Flood is out now. It's about Noah. So your two novels so far have been Cain and Noah. What's coming up next for Brennan McPherson?
Next up in the series is a book about the Tower of Babel.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And then another series that's based on the Psalms.
Is there much history to look back at when you look at what the world was like at that time to give you some idea of the kinds of conflict, the way people handled that, the violence? I mean, just violence in general was a part of the world so greatly.
Yeah, well, with Flood, there isn't really much to look back on because everything was destroyed in the flood. We don't know what their buildings were like, what their culture was like. With Tower, there'll be more historical details, but yeah, that is essentially another reason why it's more fantasy-esque because we just don't know.
Yeah. So when can we expect Tower?
Hopefully soon.
Okay, so you're already well into it, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
I guess you have to be when you're doing a series. Well, I want you all to know that Brennan's latest book is called Flood, the story of Noah and the family who raised him. Fascinating. It's available where books are sold. If you'd like to hear more from Brennan, check out our Facebook page for his social exclusive interview. All you have to do is go to facebook.com/700club. Great to have you with us again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wishing you the best with your book.